Hey friendos, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Matt. We are back with some more Marvel Future Fight, and as you can see, we are going with something very different for me today. We're actually doing a tier list. We are going through all the updates, excluding the upcoming winter uniform, because we can't quite include that just yet. But I have my theory on where that's going to land. But we're going to be listing every update only in terms of characters and uniforms, not in terms of extra content. So things like GBR modes coming into the game with Dormammu and World Boss Legend, all that kind of stuff. We're moving that to one side. We're going to park that for now. Going to look at that in another video where I just have a look at the state of the game in general after 2022. So look forward to that. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at all the characters who came into the game and the uniforms and upgrades that they got. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to rank all of them by, as you can see, whether or not they are top meta, great quality, if they're mid, if they have some utility, or if it's just completely wasted potential. Now, I'm not going to do these all in order, and sadly, because the game was in a bit of a weird place this year, it's been a bit all over the place. I'm not sure if Marvel Future Revolution and its subsequent failure led to that, but as we all know, some months we didn't get updates, some months we didn't get proper updates, some months it was just a continuation of updates. And as you can see by some of these pictures, we didn't always necessarily get key art as well, which was very strange from Marvel Future Fight. We never got one for Hellfire Gala. I've been looking everywhere. I've gone back through the... believe me, going back through the forums is a nightmare. Ignoring the comment side of things, but just trying to find anything, because it's based on when the last comment was made on a post. So you can have posts from 2016 on page 1. Very bizarre. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the updates month by month. So we're starting with Hellfire Gala, yay! And sadly, it's a toss-up between wasted potential and some utility. I'm going to put it in some utility. Some could argue you could call it mid. However, 2 uniforms out of the 4 we got, it was in 2 parts. Part 1 was Betsy, it was Colossus and Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister, garbage, straight pure trash. Chuck him out straight away. Betsy, much as I do adore her and have put so much into building her up, she just doesn't cut it, I'm afraid. I'd really want her to, but she has a tiny little bit of utility in some earlier stages of World Boss Legend, some of the lower stages, and on ABL she can have a little bit, but that's literally it. That's it, sadly. Colossus is a bit of a toss-up for Colossus, because if you'd never had the Enter the Phoenix uniform, this Hellfire Gala pretty much does the same job. It gives him all of his support buffs, all of his passives, so from that respect he's actually pretty useful as a third character for your PvP team. However, if you did have Enter the Phoenix, there was literally no point, unless you like the drip, and let's be honest, there's some pretty good drip, but there was no other point to get him, so that makes him mid. The only thing that basically props this up is the mid-month update which came in, which gave Emma Frost her tier 3 and Emma Frost her uniform. Excuse me. Now, if it was just Emma Frost on her own, she'd be up here, because she is so absolutely meta for PvP. However, unfortunately, the other 3 just really drag her down, unfortunately. It would, if it was just those 3, I'd say it was a completely wasted potential, because that comic run was so cool. If you remember last year when we still had the live streams with Kim and Cage, Kim was a massive fan of Hellfire Gala and she really wanted to see it, but unfortunately they got rid of them just before this update, which I kind of feel a bit bummed about, really, because I really wanted to see her reaction to these uniforms. She would have loved them. But sadly that happened after the merger with Kabam and everything, and a lot of the staff got shrunk and some got moved over to MFR and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, unfortunately that is where we're going to be sticking Hellfire Gala. Some utility, but really not much. Next up we have, well, what I like to call a 2 to 3 part one. We have the Infinity Watch. So that's this one here. And this, I gotta be honest, it's gonna go in top meta. Now the reason for that is not because of so much the original or even the mid, but basically it came in three parts. We had part one, start of February, which had Adam Warlock tier 3 and his Infinity Watch uniform. We had Drax and Gamora. Drax and Gamora, yeah, both trash. Don't worry about those. But then in mid-month, we got Echo. She turned up with her Enter the Phoenix look, and she was pretty good. And then at the start of March, we got part 3, which brought us the Infinity Ultron uniform and the Obsidian King Thanos uniform. Now, the reason that this is top meta is purely because of 2 of those uniforms, which in fact, is it top meta? It's a tough one. It's kind of between the two, but I'm gonna put it in top meta for now. By the time we finish, we may have moved it down. But just for Adam Warlock for PvP and for Obsidian King Thanos in PvP, because those 2 have lasted all through the year despite everyone else who's come and gone. Adam, Emma, we've just discussed, and Thanos have really been so super strong during this year for PvP that despite the fact that Drax was, do you know what? Drax and Gamora do kind of drag it down. I'm going to put it in great quality because they really do drag it down. And Echo, she's actually better for PvP when she gets her uniform, which we'll get to in a little while. So yeah, on second thoughts, I'm going to say great quality because sadly, this could have been one amazing update. They could have introduced this all at once and it would have been absolute banger. Completely knocked it out of the park. Everyone would have been super happy, especially when you consider the game stuff that was brought in with the Infinity Ultron World Boss Legend and all of that kind of stuff. But I think for now we're going to put it in great quality because, like I say, it's only PvP as well. It's not like any of these characters have any PvE utility. I mean, Gamora as a leadership for speed types, that's literally it. Yeah, I think we're going to go with that. So the next actual update, in terms of an actual key art update, is sadly I'm gonna have to put it there. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Hawkeye fans. And even though Echo's uniform did improve her to make her pretty useful for PvPs, along with the Infinity Watch, her actually arriving, it was a little bit too little too late. And it was also a weird one because we had this amazing Phoenix uniform as her base kit, and this Maya Lopez Echo uniform is given to her as a uniform. It really sent a weird and mixed message to everyone. Hawkeye himself, yeah, he got a new uniform and he's great. Kate Bishop, she got her Awakening. She's okay. I think Hawkeye really needs his tier 4 and a new uniform because it didn't do enough. It didn't move the needle. Certainly for speed types, it didn't really move the needle at all. We were still relying on Spider-Man back then when it came out in March. And yeah, Echo, she's probably going to get her own uniform when her own Disney Plus show comes out. Although, to be honest, the way the Disney Plus shows are looking right now, I wouldn't be surprised if they just scrapped it and went straight into Daredevil because Disney Plus shows are looking very bloated these days and the quality has really been on the decline, but that's a whole other story. So yeah, I'm going to put it down here in wasted potential because as cool, and don't get me wrong, with every single one of these updates I'm not going to be knocking the aesthetics. Visually, always look amazing. The uniforms, the trailers, everything, the art team really does deserve so much extra credit on MFF because they really go above and beyond. But sadly, it's just the actual, the coding and the actual, utility of the characters that kind of leaves a little to be desired. So yeah, sadly, it's going there. And speaking of wasted potential, we move on to the end of March, beginning of April, and April pools. It didn't have its own key art, it was just the 2, Gwenpool and Deadpool. Neither of whom are meta. Deadpool, this didn't do anything for him. His Holiday Lady Deadpool, probably still the best uniform for him. We had his 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary ones. They were both garbage. We had this one, didn't move the needle at all. Gwenpool, it was her second paywall. She's had 2 uniforms in the last 3 years. Both have been paywall, like fully paywall, having to pay cash for them. So she's just a trash character now, not worth building at all, unless, like me, you've got the resources to burn and you're just using her for story fragment farming. That's literally it. It's disappointing, sure, it's hella disappointing, but sadly, that's just where she lies. So, the next update we're going to get to, and this is another very, very painful one for me, was the No Way Home Part 2. Now again, no key art for this, very strange, and I'm going to put it in some utility. I'd like to say, well actually, yeah, we could say it's mid, purely because Electro was good, he was really good as a villain when he came out, best speed villain in the game, easily, with his uniform. Doc Ock gets a decent bump up as a combat villain. That was obviously before we saw the arrival of tier 4s, etc. So at the time it was really useful. Green Goblin, Green Goblin. It's been 8 long months. This uniform has worked wonders for him, but it's very, very strange, especially since back then they would have known that they were introducing tier 4s. So they would have known that they have to get every single character in game up to a baseline of either tier 3 or awakened. But for some reason, it's now December and they still haven't given him an awakening or a tier 3. Meanwhile, all the other characters are now getting tier 4s. It's just bizarre. It was a real sticking point for a lot of fans. It still is now. A lot of people are still salty, just like me. So yeah, whilst it was a really good rework for him and he can do a lot of content, he just can't do the content we want him to do. That's where he needs to be. He needs to be able to do endgame content. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to stick him there. So, moving on. We have Multiverse of Madness. Now, there were 2 parts to this, so I'm going to put them both together, and unfortunately this is also going to have to go with mid. I'd like to say great quality. Doctor Strange does have some really good aspects to him, but unfortunately I'm going to put it in mid because Wong wasn't as strong as we'd like to have seen. America Chavez is really useful with her new uniform as a replacement for Colossus, as a support, but a support only in PvP. She's pretty handy, she can do something, but I think that meta has been left clearly in the dust with the arrival of tier 4s, with Hulk arriving, and now especially with Jean Grey as well. So her days are just gone. Scarlet Witch, once again, we never really saw the true power and potential of her turn up in game. As great as she is, she just isn't the powerhouse that she should be, really, to be honest. And then the second part of the update, where we got a new uniform for Ancient One. It's just a leadership uniform, that's all it is. Baron Mordo, again, another wasted uniform for him. He does absolutely nothing at all. And I know some people think that Wong's useful for his support passive, but it only applies to magic type, so it's very limited. So yeah, we're going to have to put it in mid. So now, we are getting onto the big boy updates, because this is where we see in June the arrival of the new meta, the top meta, the tier 4 meta. Unfortunately, as great as Iron Man is, I'm just going to have to put it in great quality. If I had Black Widow at tier 4, I might say that it's actually top meta, but the fact is that she didn't even get her tier 4 until a lot later. She didn't get hers until, like, what, end of August? When, yeah, it was end of August when She-Hulk got her tier 3 and her Disney Plus uniform. So unfortunately, this update itself only goes in great quality. We got Iron Man, his new uniform in tier 4, easily top meta. Unfortunately, Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, yeah, he's okay, but he's nothing special. Blade, I really like Blade, but he's just too slow. His damage is pretty good actually, and he works well with an energy, but unfortunately he just isn't fast enough to do anything. And like I say, Black Widow, the uniform didn't do too much for her straight away. It was only when she got the bump up to tier 4 that she became really useful. So unfortunately, it's just going to have to go in the great quality as opposed to top meta. Now, next, sort of mid-June, we actually had the Moon Knight update. But considering it was just Moon Knight and Elektra, and then we had Miss Marvel turning up with Blue Dragon and Sunbird, and then we had She-Hulk turning up, just her, and Black Widow, who'd already got her uniform. She just got her tier 4. I'm lumping all the Disney Plus ones that didn't have their own key art, that weren't their own standalone update, all together, and I'm going to put them in great quality. The reason for that is because She-Hulk is amazing leadership, Miss Marvel is really, really good, Moon Knight is excellent as a tier 4 character, and whilst the likes of Sunbird and Blue Dragon aren't as good, that they can't quite make it creep up to top meta, unfortunately, but there is enough there, I think, between Moon Knight, She-Hulk and Miss Marvel, the 3 Disney Plus characters themselves, to actually warrant it being great quality. It's just a shame that the likes of Elektra, rather than getting Layla, we could have and should have got Layla instead of Elektra, and then obviously Sunbird I don't think is as useful as he could be. He's purely just there just as a PvP support for Blue Dragon, and I don't even think Blue Dragon is as amazing as she could be. So yeah, great quality for that. So after that, and obviously that's going to discount all the further Disney Plus updates, so we're moving on to July and Thor Love and Thunder. Now, the actual Love and Thunder update itself was kind of disappointing, and as such it's going to go in great quality. It's not even as good as either of those, to be honest. It's just going to go above all the Disney Plus shows purely because Thor's tier 4 is really super strong. How good he is without the uniform, if you take away the tier 4 level 80, all of that is another story, but I do think the fact that he's universal means that he is still really top of the meta now. Jane Foster, I know that a lot of people really like her, but I can't get her rotation down for her to be consistent enough for her to be top meta for me. And Valkyrie, again, she was always a support anyway. It makes her a little tiny bit stronger as a support, but it doesn't do enough to make her that special, which is a shame, because I think if she had just a little bit more of the edge so she could actually do some, work herself, and if Jane was a tiny bit stronger, I would have put this up here, top meta, but unfortunately it just goes in great. So that is our July. So then again we move on to another completely wasted one, and that's the summer uniforms. We all know how I feel about payful uniforms, absolute garbage. And Iceman, unfortunately his crystal wall uniform didn't exactly set the world on fire, which, obviously it wouldn't because he's ice, but it didn't move anyone either, unfortunately. Storm, speaking of not moving, this uniform looks absolutely amazing, and we all know that the damage is very high, but the movement speed is very low. And it's paywall, so sadly, yeah, we are just sticking them both there. So sorry about that, but that's just how it is. So on we move to the next one, and I've got to do it. I've got to put it straight up there, top meta. Fear itself, August. Hulk has redefined what a strong character is. Now, we can argue till the cows come home about his tier 4 skill, and how it was implemented, and then how it was reworked, and how it currently works, and how it should work, etc, etc, etc. At the end of the day, he is still absolutely wrecking fools in PvP, and he can still clear content faster than a lot of other characters in PvE. So GBR, he still absolutely rocks. In World Bus Legend, he absolutely rocks. He has redefined what it means to be a combat character in this game, and he is now the mold. He is now the benchmark where we're going to look for all new characters. I said it in my Wolverine video the other day. That is where the future lies. So, despite the fact that Titania is fairly decent, Absorbing Man was kind of meh, and Jugs, sadly, Jugs is just a funny name, and that's about it. He didn't really do much for the combat villain. But when you're introducing 4 combat villains all at once, it was always going to be very difficult. Don't forget, in this update, we also got Gore as a world boss, so it was a brilliant update, to be honest. But we're not including that bit. So yeah, just for the uniforms alone, purely because of how bad Hulk moved the needle and shifted the whole meta of the game, even more so I'd say than Iron Man or Thor, I'm putting it top meta. Am I biased? Sure, maybe. But hey, it's my list, so what are you going to do? So, moving on, we have the Symbiote Invasion. Now this took up September and it went into October as well. We had 2 parts for it. We had the original part, which gave us Venom and his tier 4. It gave us Agent Venom and his uniform. It gave us Silence and it gave us Toxin. And it gave us Gore as a playable character. So because of that, it's also finding its way to the top, because as we all know, Venom is super strong as a hero combat. Gore is super strong for PvP. I said he was going to be PvP from when he came out, but it wasn't until he got reworked that other people started to see it, and now you'll find him in a lot of teams, and especially with his leadership, with the debuff and the HP for villains, he's super strong with a team of Hulk and say Hulk or Thanos. You could go for Thanos still, and Jean Grey. So overall, it's a really strong update. Agent Venom is still a surprisingly good character for PvP. A lot of people have him in their teams as a 3rd character, and he can put in the work. The weakest link out of all of these is probably going to be Scream, but I just think the standard of all the other characters in this update, Carnage as a tier 4, Venom as a tier 4, Gore as a tier 3, really helped to sell this. So yeah. Now, next we come to the Halloween update. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's going to be wasted potential. Actually, no. I'm actually going to say that it's a tough one. I'm going to have to put it in mid, because Morgan Le Fay wasn't very good, so she on her own would be down here, whereas Black Bolt himself would be up here. So we're going to have to weigh the 2 against each other, split the difference and call it mid. Morgan Le Fay wasn't very good, and again, we all know payable uniform, I don't like that. For crystal cost, I don't have a problem with that. Even if they made the female ones like 2,500 or 3,000, that would be good. But to make it pure cash only, so you can only buy it in that window and you have to spend real money for players on a budget, for younger players who don't have the cash accessible, I think it's a really bad business model. It's only for the whales, and so because of that, it would be down there. However, Black Bolt is amazing. He is really good with his new uniform. So he alone would be up here probably. So we're going to put it in mid to combat the 2. So next we have the November updates. So I'm including Wakanda Forever, and I'm also including the Veterans Day, Cap and Punisher uniforms in this update. And I gotta be honest, in fact I wouldn't even say it's as good as that. It's going in mid. Shuri is interesting tier 3. I think she isn't the PvE replacement for Miss Marvel that a lot of people thought she would be. I think Miss Marvel still just edges her in terms of PvE, but I do see a lot of Shuri in PvP, so I got to be honest, she is really very strong there in comparison to where I thought she would be. A lot of people use her, and I'm guessing that a lot of people have luck with her because I'm seeing her there all the time. Unless people are super lazy with their team, they're only walking one team and they can't be bothered changing her out, and they've only got her in the team for the uniform XP. I don't think that's the reason, but that's the only reason I can think of if she's not good. So she must be good. M'Baku, yeah, it was cool we got him, but sadly, that's all I can say. Riri, again, can't really say much about her because she doesn't really move the needle either. They're fun, they look good, but they don't really do much for the game. Tier 4 Namor, once he got reworked, he became more useful. I wouldn't say he's great quality though, I think he's only okay. He could have been stronger and perhaps should have been stronger. And when you consider where the top meta is, you look at the very strong combat villains we have up there, he really should be doing more in order to justify getting him. So sadly, that's where he lies. As for Cap and Punisher, ooh, that's a tough one. Cap, I don't think that uniform, the tier 4, did him any favours, really. Well, I thought he was going to be, where I thought he should be. I would say that Cap himself is mid, and Punisher, right down there. Absolutely wasted potential. So yeah, very, very disappointing, and that drags the overall November updates down there to mid. So unfortunately, despite Shuri's best efforts, that's where we go. Now, the last update of the year. It's going to be in 2 parts, and we know that the other part is coming. But for now, we just have the one, the December Destiny of X update. Jean Grey is here. She really is that strong in PvP. However, she's not that great in PvE. And the other characters are an absolute letdown. In fact, the other characters, you could say, are wasted potential completely. Leadership, Beast and Cyclops, yeah. Cyclops is great now as a blast leadership and support. He's great for Iron Man, but that's it. So you could say that he has good utility, great utility even. Beast, sadly, nothing for him at the moment. I think when we get more mutants and especially more combat types, like Wolverine, then maybe he'll have some. Angel, nothing. Polaris, I haven't really seen the most of her yet. I'm still waiting until the current event quest is finished so I can get my Mega Tier 2 so we can take her up to Tier 3. But I'm going to say great quality purely on how much we all know and how toxic we all know Jean Grey is. And there we have it. So that is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Where would you place this? I have saved this on the tier list maker so you guys can do your own. Make your own up, or let me know in the comments down below where you would put all of these characters. And until then, thank you very much for watching. I know it's a bit of a long one, but it was something very different today. And take care. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.